Okay, so carrying on our HRM lecture, we're going to look at the rest of the HRM functions. We are going to look a bit at globalization in HRM, and we're going to have a look at Ulrich's HRM model. So as I said in the last video, training and development is one of the functions of human resources. Okay, so it's important because it potentially has a strong impact on the business's strategy. And it can give you both a competitive and economic advantage. Okay. Having a skilled workforce puts you ahead of your competition. It also develops stronger links with employee resourcing, and it allows for greater employee flexibility. It enables you to focus on your employees' potential, and you can focus on their leadership and their management development. And we've also kind of seen this shift from sort of manual to more softer skills in organization. So it's up to HR to decide the type of training and development an organization offers and who offers the training. Do you do it in-house or do you outsource it? And it's up to HR also to evaluate how well or otherwise the training has gone within the organization. And you can also build employee branding, so an employer's reputation among its workforce. And not only will this motivate the workforce, but it will help you to attract the talent from elsewhere. So HR are also responsible for pay and reward. Okay, so you have intrinsic rewards, things such as fulfillment, self-esteem, job satisfaction, and then you have extrinsic rewards. So pay, overtime, bonuses, non-pay rewards, such as cars, housing costs, maybe additional holiday pays. So HR is also responsible for the pay scale. Okay, and they have to take into account what is the basic rate. Okay, what is the kind of pay scale? How do staff progress along the scale? And figuring out what is a fair payment for your staff members. So in terms of trends in pay, what we've kind of seen is this emphasis on service. Okay, so people behaving appropriately rather than their outputs. And this kind of concept of individual reward rather than collective reward. And we can also offer employees bundles of things, with some degree of choice. Okay, so offering them benefits that they might be able to choose. So HR is also responsible for performance management, okay, and they focus on employee appraisal. So there's been an intense kind of growth on attention to performance, and this is due to increased competition, the increased use of targets within organization, cultural changes, and also downsizing and delayering. So we'll talk a bit more about that when we talk about organizational structures. But the reason for performance management is to communicate goals and a shared vision, right? And it allows employees to set their own goals and to self-monitor them. It improves communication, it motivates people, it can manage their career development, can identify, hidden talents, and it can help with promotional issues, disciplinary issues, pay issues, if you are on top of that employee's performance. Now, the arguments, against kind of performance management is that there's too many objectives within it, and sometimes these objectives are conflicting. Also, people quite often don't deal very well with negative feedback and negative comments from appraisals. There's issues that, is it subjective? How do you judge someone? How do you assess them? And people would also state that it's just a way for management to, keep control over their employees. So in terms of employee relations, as I've kind of touched upon, HR has seen this shift from industrial relations to employment relations. Okay, so there's attempts to kind of move partnership agreements between employers and employees. Okay, and there's this involvement of HRM at a representative level, okay, in terms of things such as works councils, emails, briefing groups, task-based in terms of things like job enrichment. And HR also has an increased focus on disciplinary and grievance procedures, okay, and dealing with those. So they focus a lot as well on communication and involvement with employees, and they also deal with flexible labor, okay, so if you're thinking of things such as remote working, flexible working, these kind of newer practices and ways of working would all come under HRM's responsibility. So in addition to this, they're now operating in a whole host of different environments, okay? So you need to be taking into account the economic, the political, the legal, and the cultural differences. and the varieties in power and control in things such as acquisitions and joint ventures, in terms of job mobility and downsizing and delayering. So being aware of all of this. So HRM need to be aware and understand why policies and practices need to vary. Okay, and they need to manage more complex information flows due to globalization. So they need to develop ways that business can deliver strategy cost effectively. So, they need to be aware that labor institution markets may vary. There's different values, in terms of employee relations in different countries. So HRM, has to be aware of these global differences in the workplace. So HRM has obviously seen some changes due to globalization. Okay, it has seen this growth in global firms, an increase in competition, and you now have to manage a more distributed labor force. So HRM could now be managing staff in cross-border situations. Okay, so they also now need to be developing effective international managers, and they need to develop different policies and practices that work for different locations, depending on where the company is based. Okay, so how do we then measure the effectiveness of human resources? So from an organizational point of view, it would be in terms of sales, profits, productivity, etc. From an employee's point of view, it would be their employee satisfaction and, their take on their self-development. And from a stakeholder point of view, it would be things such as share price, profit, jobs, etc. So there's been a lot of studies that point to a link between successful HR practices and financial success and operational performance. And it also links highly to employee retention and keeping a low turnover rate in your organization. So now we'll just move on to discussing Ulrich's model of human resource management. So Ulrich believes that HR is the centralized provision of admin, services, records, and advice, and it's the center of expertise, okay? And it should provide specialist input as it's required. So it's essentially a business partner, okay? And it assists in the development of both business and corporate strategy. So the strategic partner is about the alignment of HR activities and initiatives with the global business strategy, okay? And this is the task of HR management and HR business partners, okay? And then what we have is the change agent. So the change agent is about supporting change and transition within the organization. Okay, so you're supporting the human capital of the organization. And the role of HR is to support change activities in the change effort and also ensure that the capacity and the capability for change exists within the organization. So the administrative expert has kind of changed over time. So in the beginning, it was kind of, about the maximum quality of delivered services. But nowadays, it has moved to the stress being placed on the quality of service at the lowest possible cost to the organization. So then you've got the employee champion, and that's very important. Okay, it's an important role of HR. So the employee advocate knows what employees need, right? And HRM should know it. So the employee advocate is able to take care of the employees' decisions and their interests and protect them. Okay, they can protect them during the change in the organization. So Ulrich's model overall is concerned with HR's role in change in an organization. So that is us done with the HR videos. So you've got another wee video underneath this, 20 seconds long, with your activity to do, and then have a watch of the accounting video, okay? And under that, there's another wee video of the accounting activity. As always, answers in teams.